Hey guys, welcome back. I'm still working on the spindle walls. I'm doing that here and there. I got to get them done here in the next couple days, but I need to get this done by tomorrow. And this is for the bottom side of a seat for a motorcycle. And it's the fiberglass is cracked, so I need to grind this down and get some new fiberglass and matting on here. And then after that, I'll let it dry in the sun for a while, and then we can do a little bit of body work to it, which is just filling in these gouges that are missing and stuff. And we'll just use Bondo on that because the seat material wraps underneath a little bit. So I'm going to grind this down real quick with some 36 grit. Okay, you have to rough it up a little bit before you put some fiberglass on there. Somebody tried to just use resin to fill the crack. You can't do that. You got to put mat down. So let me get some resin and mat out, and we're going to put a couple coats along this whole surface just to stiffen this up a little bit. And the foam for the seat goes on top of it, so you're never going to see it. Okay, let's cut a couple strips of this mat so we can put a couple layers on. And I'm not worried about it if it hangs over the panel, because we'll just grind it off. It's not a big deal. What we want to do is get this thing strengthened up. That's the most important thing. Strengthen it up, rather. Okay, so we're going to do 3 layers. I think I have enough resin hardener right here. I don't know, it's going to be close. I might have to open up another tube. I was kind of hoping to be able to use these up. I always tend to use a little bit more hardener. You know what, I gotta go grab, I wonder if I have a paintbrush. Let's go see if I have a paintbrush. Okay, good, I still have a couple of these disposable cheap ones. With that amount of resin, I like to put about 15 drops. I only got 3 drops out of that tube. Oh, I'm just going to finish off this tube. I think that should be enough. Mix it up really, really well. And then once we spread it on there, I'm going to move the stand into the sun and let it just cure in the sun so that I can grind it down. We can do a little bit of body work to it and get it in primer today. Like I said, the top side doesn't matter because there's padding going over it. It's the bottom side we need to do the body work on and get it in primer so that tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning, I'll shoot it satin black, single stage satin black, and we'll put it out in the sun again. I'm not going to spray it in the spray booth or anything like that. We're just going to do it outside in the sun. It'll be dry in probably 2 hours tomorrow morning, and he can come tomorrow afternoon and pick it up. Then he can get it off to his upholstery guy, who's going to modify the foam a little bit and cover it, because I guess the seat's a little bit too tall for him. He's having a hard time reaching the ground. So it looks like we got to stir it up real good here. So let's go out here and put these couple layers of mat on. First thing you want to do before you put the first mat on is you need to wet the existing fiberglass with the new resin. You want to wet it really good. All right, now we're going to stick our first piece on, which these are 3 different sizes. This is the smallest piece, width-wise. See how it's soaking right into that stuff? Don't be afraid to put the resin down. You got to get this stuff soaked in good. Okay, now we're going to put our second coat on top, which is a little bit wider. The edge is the most important because that's where it's cracked. Okay, now we're going to put the third coat over top. Figuring out which way I want to set it. That looks good like that. Fiberglass work is actually pretty darn easy. You can do quite a bit with this stuff. You can make a lot of stuff too. Now this woven material is a little bit stronger than the strand like they used originally, but the original stuff that they used is sprayed out of a gun. It literally shoots the strands of fiberglass out of a gun. It like chops it up and shoots it out. But you can buy that matting too. I prefer this woven stuff because it's a little bit more durable. And it's hanging over the edge there. I'm not worried about that. We'll grind it afterwards. Let's use up the rest of our little bit of resin here. It's not going to hurt. I don't care if it drips onto the ground. It's outside. It's not going to hurt anything. Okay, it's just as simple as that, guys. Now we are going to let this dry and remove it into the sun. And it is going to sit here for an hour or two. It's windy out today and sunny, so that's a good thing. Okay, and I'll be back in a little while. It'll be only a minute for you guys, but a little bit for me, and we will grind it down and start doing the body work on the other side. Then put a little bit of 2K primer on it, and then tomorrow, or who knows, you know what? If I keep this thing in the sun today, I might even be able to paint it. I mean, you're never going to see the thing. It's underneath the motorcycle. It's underneath the seat. But I might even be able to get it painted today. So that would be actually kind of cool, because I think I should be able to, because it's supposed to be like 80-some degrees today. Should be sunny all day. With that, it should cure that 2K primer real fast, and we have a nice breeze today. The breeze also helps dry this stuff. You know what I mean? It just helps cure it out. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, this dried really nice and solid. So now this we're going to leave alone. We're going to grind where it dripped on the edges, and then we'll flip it over, and I'm going to grind around the chips that need filled in. And we're going to mix up a little bit of short strand fiberglass, and we're going to put them in those spots, let it cure, and then maybe a little bit of glazing filler on top of those, sand it down, and we'll get it in 2K primer. We got it ground, because you want to make sure that you grind it so that your filler has something to stick to. If you don't rough it up with like a good 36 or an 80 grit, your filler is just going to roll right off of the surface. So let's mix up some short strand fiberglass. Okay, so now we're going to mix up some of the short strand fiberglass. Then I'm going to put it back in the sun for a good half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. Do a couple other things while I'm waiting, and then we'll come back and knock that down. And then we'll do a little bit of glazing filler, U-pull, and then at that point, we should be ready for final sanding and primering. So pretty quick process. I mean, really not much to it. Mainly, it takes longer for this product to dry than it does time for you to do the work. So we don't need a ton of this. We're not putting it on super heavy. We're just filling in anything that needs filled in. That should be more than enough. And I just use this Bondo glass. I get it from Harbor Freight. 20 bucks a quart. It's really not that bad a price. Everybody else is like 25, 30 bucks. So I go there. And is it hot out? So once again, don't stir it. Flip it over when you mix it. It's the best way to do it. This doesn't really matter much. We're going to be coating over it. So if you get some air bubbles in this, not a huge deal. But if you look at this stuff, you see how stringy this is? That's all chopped up pieces of fiberglass mat. So it's basically almost like what we used, but the matte material, and it's just chopped up and put it into this resin mix. And then we put a hardener in it, and it'll harden up. And these little strands of fiberglass will bridge the areas that need to be bridged. For instance, like, you know, where these pieces like right here are all missing or chipped out of there, this is going to fill that in. And then if you just use straight body filler, it's not strong like this stuff is. This is meant to fill in stuff like this. Body filler is not meant to fill in stuff like this. Body filler is just meant to smooth out rough surfaces or irregular surfaces. It's not meant to build edges. It's not meant to do any of that stuff. Not meant to fill in holes. But seeing that this is all fiberglass, this is the easiest way to do it. See how much I wadded on there? Just want to make sure it's built up enough so that when I sand it down, I don't have to put another coat of this. I mean, we're not building the underside of this seat to be a show quality seat here. I mean, nobody's ever going to see it. I mean, even if you lay it on the ground, I don't really know how much of it you'd really see. Maybe a little bit of the center. So my goal is to just get it solid and no nicks and cracks in it. That's what we're looking for here. We're not looking for the guy to spend a bunch of money to get this fixed. Just a quick repair so that the upholstery guy can get it wrapped. This is for that OSA motorcycle that I did a couple weeks ago. The seat that's currently on there is just too tall for him. He cannot touch the ground. So this one's going to have a lower seat cushion put on it. They're going to take the cushion and cut it down. And then the original seat that came on it, I think he's going to use when he takes it to a bike show and put that seat on there. But he does ride this thing, so he has been riding it, and he said he loves it, so it's awesome. He's actually a person that will build something and actually use it, not like everybody else that just builds stuff and lets it sit around. Kind of like me, because I just don't have time to use it. But okay, we're gonna let that dry. I'm gonna put it back out in the sun, and then we'll come back in a little bit and sand that down. Okay, I'm gonna get a shape down with the 36 grit on that little grinder again. now we can mix up a little bit of glazing putty. I better get this spot real quick. All right, make sure you guys wear a mask, especially with the fiberglass. Fiberglass gets in your lungs and it sits in there. It's like smoking menthol cigarettes, same thing. You don't want that in your lungs. You know, a respirator would be even better, but these actually seal pretty good. You can actually see the dirt around it from how close it fits onto my face. We're gonna use some of this fantastic glaze. And we're probably gonna have to I'm probably gonna have to use my finger to smooth some of it out on the corners. But we shouldn't need a ton of this. Start with that. If I have to mix up more, we'll mix up more. And once again, make sure you don't stir it. I think I'm gonna put a glove on. I don't feel like picking body filler out from underneath my fingernail. This stuff's gonna dry pretty quick. I only have so much time with it. So this is just showing you guys how you can do a quick repair on fiberglass. And it'll last. That resin and cloth really hold stuff together, but just make sure you guys rough everything up. You want something for your filler and your resin and everything to stick to. If you go over smooth, it's like putting body filler on glass. It'll just peel right off. Now, as hot as it is outside, this might dry before I get it all on. Now, it's okay if you see a little bit of sanding marks through this. It's filling them in. I'm trying to spread this really smooth, so I'm gonna hand sand this, and I don't really want to be here for a half an hour trying to knock this down with some sandpaper. The reason why I'm hand sanding it is because there are so many weird curves and stuff, and I'm not worried about getting filler in the holes. I'll drill those back out. Get this on here as quick as possible. This is a pretty sandable, you can sand it pretty easy. Now the top edge right here I'm not really worried about because the material goes over the edge. So it actually wraps around the backside and this stuff's actually setting. Yep, not gonna be able to smooth it with my finger. Okay, well, it is what it is. Let it dry and sand it down. Oh, okay, I'm gonna use some 80 grit by hand here and sand this down. It's gonna take a little bit of time to knock it down. I'm gonna put my mask on. The wind's kind of blowing in my face. So I'm just going to sit here and sand it like that until I get it all sanded down. So I'm going to do it off camera because it's going to take me probably 15-20 minutes to sand it down, and then I'll come back and we'll take a look at it. Okay, it's all been sanded down with 80 and 180, and now I'm going to spray some 2K primer. I'm going to put 3 coats on it, and there's some pinholes, and we're going to fill it in with the 2K primer. I'll show you how I'm going to do that after I spray a couple coats of primer on it. I'm putting it on real thick. I don't care if it runs a little bit, just want to get it on really, really thick and get it smoothed down. Okay, I've sprayed on all 3 coats of primer, and you see all these pinholes right here. We're going to take this little touch-up brush, and we are going to use some leftover primer, and we are going to dab it into those pinholes. So just take some on this little brush here, and just dot it right into the pinhole, kind of push it into it. This is just a quick, easy way to fix these little pinholes, which is very common when you have fiberglass. Probably just going to go ahead and let this dry overnight and spray it first thing in the morning, just to really give this stuff time to cure. I'm gonna leave it outside for a while. It's cooled off outside. The sun kind of went down, but it's still got a good breeze going on. So that'll be nice to help this stuff dry. But yeah, there's dots of primer going to be left over, but they'll sand right out. This is easier than mixing up some icing and having to do that afterwards. Oh, sun's coming back out. Nice. So there's quite a few on here. But when you sand it like I did, ground it down and stuff, you kind of break through the gel coat and get into the fiberglass itself, and it tends to do this. But I'm going to go ahead and do this for a couple minutes. Okay, that's it. It's going to sit here and dry now. Filled in all the little pinholes that were there. Now tomorrow I'll sand this down with 180 grit, 320, and then a little bit of a red Scotch-Brite pad. And then we'll put a coat of epoxy primer on it, and then probably 2 coats of a satin black, and that is it. It'll be done, ready for the interior guy to wrap it, and he can put it on the bike. So hopefully this helps anybody who needs to fix some fiberglass. If you remember here, it was cracked through here and on this side over here. So hopefully this helps anybody who's trying to do a little bit of fiberglass work. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you tomorrow when we finish this up and get it painted. And I'm just going to paint it outside tomorrow as well.